I know what you guys want. You want to get to the sizzle reel. You're here for skulls. And I will deliver. This skull is a legitimate contender for coolest skull ever, which is one of the most competitive groups of nouns. It is nearly 7 million years old. Rip in peace, Sahelanthropus tchadensis, you Chad from Chad, taken before your time. Also rest in peace, the 28 takes it took to get that take of me saying that word almost correctly, and all 5 takes getting this line correct. And I still whispered it all. What's up with that? Anyway. So I'm locked in. I'm here. I'm with it. I want to do something with this skull. This skull's awesome. I want to work with it. I want to get it on my team. I want to sign it to my label. But what are we going to do with it? Well, scrimshaws is what I decided to do. I wanted it to look like carved, like somebody carved into it, but each chip individually kind of carved. Because it's a skull that you look at, anthropologically, it sort of represents an entire species. I wanted to do something kind of literal with that theme. Now, art from 7 million years ago is actually really hard to come by. Like, photography wouldn't hit till, the 70s, and, so that's a few years off. And, painting wasn't that common, because, back in the day, you had to kind of mix your own paints. It was much harder to do. In particular, if you're an early hominin and you have no sense of either of those concepts. So I didn't have a whole lot of source material to draw from. So since this is believed to be one of our earliest ape ancestors, Wikipedia says that maybe we don't think that anymore 100%. I'm not sure. This isn't what I'm good at. I'm gonna talk about art stuff. It's a perfect opportunity to tell primordial stories, or the primordial stories, which are creation myths. Now, I didn't aim to represent any specific creation myths, because then I'd have to research all of them. There's 5 or 10. I don't know. There's a non-zero amount that I'd have to research and then represent accurately, which would be a lot of work, and I'd want to do a good job, and it'd take 6 months, so we'd never get it done. And if you understood all, 7 of them, there's probably 7. If you understood all 7 of the possible creation myths that could ever be, I think you turn into a demon or something. It just seems like what would happen if it were a story. And I don't have health insurance, so we're gonna create some new creation myths. That's the objective. Or more accurately, hint at them. It aims to be more of a tone painting of both early symbology and stories that maybe somebody might tell as a creation myth, but in the weird sort of fantastical way with magical creatures and these strange goings on, and some of them ended up really elaborate and some of them ended up kind of strange, and they're all pretty interesting, I hope. Either they're interesting or I'm a fraud. Either way, that's an interaction. So visually, I tried to make each sort of chip of the skull, every sort of plane that I could carve an idea into. I tried to make each one basically its own piece of a larger story to sort of suggest a bigger story. So the pieces around it don't specifically reflect each one, but I tried to keep them in tone with the ones around it. So you have these radiating themes that should hopefully fit together in a way that draws the eye and brings your attention from place to place. Once I had that figured out, I decided to layer the skull thematically. So down at the bottom is aquatic imagery and this sort of life from the ocean and sort of creatures beneath. It's existential dread, the sort of primal all-life connection to water, and it's where you'd fight blue skeletons if palette swaps were real. So from there, we get into a little bit of geological fixtures, and then we have a lot of imagery of both animals and filthy animals, respectively. And woven throughout are mythological creatures, which are creatures that I say are mythological when I tell morality tales about them. And then as we lift up, we start to see bird imagery, because this would have been when there were still birds. And then there's this sort of inversion from the bottom, because I have this sort of lake of stars and then clouds and then just space stuff that's normally out there. Just the normal stuff that we all know is in space. For individual inspiration, I just kind of let the flow of the skull and the chips kind of decide what was going to be on it. I was just sort of feeling it out. As long as it felt like each was a piece of a larger story, like it was a small part of a bigger myth that you can't find on the Wayback Machine anymore. Special thanks to the Center for Anthropobiology and Genomics of Toulouse for the source image and for having a name I could get on the first try. And presumably a bunch of cool science stuff. Thank you to Milo from Mini Minuteman for making an awesome video about this skull that let me know that it exists. I'll link that below. I'd like to thank Salanthropus ticherensis for existing and being a cool-ass hominin who walked the jungles of primeval Earth. And thank you to Evolution for continuing to be provably real. If you want a wallpaper of this for some reason, I did. I made it into a wallpaper so I could have it. But if you want it, you can have it. It's on my Twitter. It's just to do like cool cross-promotion stuff, so I'll link that in the description. And you can have it for the low price of just like the video. That's, that seems pretty reasonable. That seems like a good price.